with Tennessee. I think this is one of the better Tennessee teams we've seen since 2019, which I think was the best team we had seen since I've been at Auburn. That 2019 team was one of my favorite teams from a standpoint of having great respect for an opponent. This team here is I think equally as good. The difference this year's team is actually better defensively. They turn you over, they steal the ball from you. They put a lot of pressure on you. They fly around. This is one of Rick's better defensive teams, and make it pretty difficult for you to run your stuff with steals and turnovers and force you to play a little faster, holding the score down. So that combination with an offense that is like really, averaging like 20 assists a game or something along those. That's not true. 16 or 17 assists a game, which is 20th in the country. So they do a great job of attacking closeouts and playing the right way, sharing the ball, screening. They put some very interesting lineups out there. They'll put 4 guards out there at times. They'll put 2 centers out there at times, and they'll put 3 point guards out there at times. 3 very, very different looks that you have to be able to adjust to. Tennessee, last thing would be they play as hard and as physically as anybody, and I think, in our league. So it'll be a great challenge for us. Championship caliber game.
All right, first question from Mark Murphy.
Yeah, Bruce, talk about your success lately against Tennessee. Last 6 games you guys have won, and I think you played really well in each one of those games.
I just sort of go back to 2019 when Tennessee was right there as one of the very best teams in the country. And I felt like us, Tennessee and Kentucky, the year we got to the Final Four, were 3 teams that could have all gotten to the Final Four. They put Kentucky and us in the same region, and Tennessee lost a heartbreaker to, I think, Purdue. And then I think Virginia upset Purdue, if I'm right. So we've seen Final Four caliber Tennessee teams before, and this is certainly, I think this is one of them. So I'm just glad that these games matter. Because there was a time when I was at Tennessee, the Auburn game typically didn't mean as much. Now, I'll give you one exception. That was in Tampa. The last time the SEC tournament was there, Auburn upset Florida. And we played an Auburn team in the Saturday game, semifinal. So anyways, it's great to see. It's just great to see for both Tennessee and Auburn, 2 places I coached, are able to play in big games that have championship implications.
Question from Brian Stoltz.
Hey, Bruce. I think a lot of us saw KD Johnson come out after the game last night and shoot about, 100 threes and making quite a sheer amount of them. I think it's 16 at one time. And then taking some advice from his mother, some fire advice from his mother while he sat on the bench. What have you said to KD kind of during this shooting slump? And is part of KD's fire and compassion and stuff like that come from his mother?
I'm not exactly sure, where it all comes from. He's got a wonderful mom that loves her son and is very supportive of him, and they're a pretty good team. It was good to see KD come out after the game and get some shots. He came in this afternoon here before practice and got a workout before practice. So he's recognizing that this is we're heading down a home stretch right now, and we need everybody to see if we get a little step up. Last night it was great that our point guard play was so good. I thought that after we didn't get great point guard play Saturday at Florida, and I thought both Zepp and Wendell really stepped up. And I think that's what everybody's trying to do, and that's what it's going to take.
Question from Justin Hokanson.
Hey, Bruce, talk about Chandler and Ziegler. Are those guys different than maybe some of the guards they've had the past few years? And they seem to really wreak havoc on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, Vescovi, Chandler, and Ziegler, as I talked about, that 3-point guard lineup, man, that's nothing like I think anybody, in college basketball this year sees. It reminds me of when I would play Jared and Javon and Samir together. That's a tough group to stay in front of. And those guys are all so pesky defensively. And I think that's one of the reasons why they've turned people over. I mean, it's a really, really hard lineup to go up against. 3 playmakers, 3 shot makers, 3 great defenders. I mean, it's a really, it's quite a weapon. So that's, and you know what that is? That's just find a way to get your best players on the floor.
Question from Nathan King.
Bruce, last time you guys went to Knoxville was that regular season finale. I think Samir had 32. Al had one of his best games as a freshman. Just what positive memories do you have of that game and how well that team was playing heading into the postseason?
Well, that was COVID year, and that our Auburn team, that might have been one of the better regular season games we played in a long time. We played great. Tennessee had just come off of beating Kentucky at Rupp. And, they were getting their stride. And because that was the last game of 2020, that's the one we remembered in the off season. That sticks with you in the off season because that was the last time we played. And we went to Nashville and got the call that the season was over. And that was awfully disappointing for a lot of reasons. Every senior in college and every senior in high school, kind of got ripped off of their senior year. And I could just tell you for our student athletes that were graduating, to not have postseason, to have all the NBA combines and all those workouts, get affected. Your D'Angelo Purifoys, your Austin Wileys, Samir Dowdy, Malik Dunbar, Horace Spencer. I think I got all 5 of those seniors. That was a really good team. And it honestly, truly broke my heart for the season to end that way, but particularly for those 5 seniors.
Question from Trey Wallace.
Hey, Bruce, 2 questions. Kind of looking at Tennessee's bench and how they're able to get production. Victor Bailey Jr. had 11 points the other night for them on the road at Missouri. How do you factor into that into your game plan, and especially since they don't have Olivier Cumwa anymore? And then the second part of that, you've been in some crazy environments in Knoxville before, and to have a matchup like this of this magnitude with the rankings, what do you expect on Saturday, and do you have any memories of crazy games like this in the past?
The games against Florida, Kentucky, the games against Texas when Kevin Durant came in and Chris Lofton launched one from the logo, Gonzaga coming in, UConn coming in. I mean, we had some great, incredible crowds and atmospheres in Thompson Bowling. And so, this will be a great atmosphere, and a lot of eyes in college basketball will be there. As far as the depth is concerned, Huntley Hatfield's done a nice job starting and playing. Bailey's been effective, come off the bench. When you can bring Wilkerson off the bench and you don't have to start him, that says a little bit about your depth. I mean, Tennessee's got guys. They've got, they got a great coaching staff, and it didn't surprise me that the big freshman from North Carolina was committed to Marquette, and then from Durham, man, he's done a nice job. Doesn't surprise me, just because of the coaches and the quality of that program. They got dudes.
Question from Tobias Wilburn. Tobias.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm right here. Forgive me. Bruce, you mentioned last night talking about with Kessler and wanting more and not overly celebrating breaking the box record. What does that mean when a guy is willing to not be celebrated in the short for the greater good?
Well, I just think that, for me, I probably could have been a little bit more sensitive to the fact that I should have known how many he needed to break the record. I knew he was close, but I wasn't in tune with it. Otherwise, I might have said something, but for me, I want him to play faster. I want him to play quicker. I want him to play with more speed and more energy. And my focus was I just wanted more. I thought he played well. I thought he could have played better and been even more dominant. And so that was just my conversation with him briefly after the game. So I did not recognize that he became, but he's got a chance to, the longer we can play, the more record he's going to break. I think the next guy in front of him is Shaq, and if I'm correct on that. And I don't know how many he needs to get Shaq, but I think he's going to get him. How many shy is anybody know how many shy he is Shaq? No, just in blocks for a single season.
Anthony Davis holds the record in the SEC.
But I think Shaq's next That's who he'll pass next. And so that's pretty cool. I mean, I just happen to look at that list and go, man, that would be pretty cool if he could pass Shaq and then whoever else is next.
All right, question from Justin Ferguson.
Bruce, what are you seeing right now from Allen on offense? Obviously still doing a lot on defense for you guys, but it looks like he's, getting frustrated trying to get back and maybe pressing a little bit. What are you seeing from him and kind of how y'all trying to keep him encouraged?
Let me just tell you about Al. Al played so hard last night. He was so effective in so many ways. But you got to feel for him. And I want our fans to feel for him. I do. He was the 5th leading returning scorer in the SEC. He was the only guy on our team that even got remotely any kind of a preseason, anything. I think he was like second team preseason all SEC. He is, I think, our 5th or maybe our 6th leading scorer. And he was the 5th leading returning scorer in the league, the whole league. So you talk about catching an injury that takes you out 3.5 months in September. And obviously working his way back from it, not the same player he was a year ago offensively. That can wear on you. And you could see some of his frustration offensively. But I was so proud of the fact that while he wore the frustration offensively, you saw it because he's such a competitor and he wants to win and wants to help his team. He was guarding and he was physical. And he didn't let his offense affect his defense. And I was very, 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 it's been a hard year for Alan Flanigan. And even though we're 24, 5-3 or whatever we are, individually, this has been tough on him. And because he wants to help the team. Yeah, he wants to help the team. So we're not done yet. That's one of the areas, oh, by the way, that if he gets making some shots and finishing around the rim, and gets a little better whistle, my goodness gracious, that's an area that we know what Al can do, and when he does, that's why I keep on talking about we get a little bit more from a few more.
All right, 2 more questions left. Steve Moulton.
Coach, at least what I see, the last season that Shaq had at LSU had 157 blocks. So yeah, you're right. He is kind of sneaking up on that. I did want to ask you about facing a team that's undefeated at home this late in a year and what kind of challenge that is to kind of more or less for your team to take that next step heading into March.
Well, I would think that like playing Tennessee at Tennessee would be as difficult as winning a Final Four game. I mean, that's what it would be very much equated to. Then we got to go to Mississippi State, and that's going to be like winning a Sweet 16 game maybe. So you want to be playing against great teams at the end of the year because it's a great barometer for where you are. just from a standpoint of even the math, playing Tennessee on the road would be the biggest net gainer, if you could get it, of any game we played all year long. And we've got some great wins, but because of how tough they are at home, how well they shoot the ball at home, how well they share the ball at home, that's going to be we're absolutely going to have our best afternoon of the year.
All right, final question. It's a follow-up from Trey Wallace.
Yeah, Coach, going back and seeing the way Zep played and what you're getting out of Wendell Green and in this guard matchup, how do you expect that to go down? I know that's hard to predict, but when you have your three going up against, like you mentioned, Chandler, Vescovi, and even throwing in Ziegler, how do you get to the basket if they're trying to cut that off at top of the perimeter?
Yeah, it's tough. I would think all the guys are excited about playing just because of the matchups. They're great matchups all over the floor. And, I had talked to Wendell a little bit about his play yesterday before the Ole Miss game. And I said, Wendell, I went back and watched Alabama because we put 100 on Alabama. And I just kind of wanted to see for myself what we were doing better offensively. And I noticed that, Wendell was being Wendell. And so we talked about some things that he did in that game that I felt like he needed to do. And he was able to do them against Ole Miss. Now, is that going to carry over against a great team like Tennessee? That's why we're coming to Knoxville.
All right,
Be tough.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.